Perfect, thank you.
All
Okay.
right, we're ready to go, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Val Vandenbroek, and I'd like to call the April 4th, 2022 public hearing to order and begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Musqueam, and Semiahmoo First Nations. With me tonight, I have Councillor Paul Albrecht, Councillor Terry James, Councillor Gail Martin, Councillor Nathan Pahal, Councillor Rudy Starboom, and Councillor Rosemary Wallace. And for staff, we have Francis Chung, our Chief Administrative Officer, Darren Light, our Director of Corporate Services, Carl Johansson, our Director of Development Services, Rick Baumhoff, our Director of Engineering, Parks and Environment, Kim Hilton, our Director of Recreation, Culture and Community Services, and Kelly Kenney, our Corporate Officer. So this public hearing is being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act in order to consider the following bylaw. Bylaw 3205, zoning bylaw amendment number 187, and development permit number 14-21. Bylaw to rezone the properties located at 5494 to 5508 Brighton Crescent and 19890 55A Avenue from the RS1 single family residential zone to the CD 83 comprehensive development zone to accommodate a 6-story 92-unit apartment development. I want to start off by thanking everyone for attending this public hearing, which is taking place by electronic means via Zoom. If we encounter technical challenges during the meeting, please stand by, as we want to ensure everyone who wishes to speak is afforded the opportunity to do so. This public hearing is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and is also being recorded and will be posted to the city's website. If you are watching and wish to attend this electronic meeting, you can go to langleycity.ca to register and join the meeting. At this public hearing, those in attendance at this meeting who believe that their interest in property is affected by any of the proposed bylaws will be allowed to make representations to council and shall be given reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters contained in the bylaw. Once in the meeting, you may use the raise hand function to indicate your wish to speak, which will automatically put you in the speaker queue. You will be invited to speak in the order in which hands are raised. When it is your turn to speak, staff will prompt you with a message asking you to unmute your microphone, and you may begin speaking. Please note the chat function will not be monitored during this public hearing webinar. Please commence your comments to council by clearly stating your name and street address. Unit numbers are not required. You will have 5 minutes to give us the benefit of your views concerning the bylaw. Your name, address, and comments will form part of the record of this public hearing. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following your presentation. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of the council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Once you've completed your comments, staff will mute your microphone. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. Once everyone who wishes to speak has done so, I will call for speakers for a second time, at which time those who wish to speak again should indicate so by using the raise hand function. Speakers will again have 5 minutes to provide their views. I will then call for speakers for a third and final time. If there are no further speakers, I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Following the close of the public hearing, council may not receive any more correspondence or representations, written or verbal, regarding the bylaw. The public was also given the opportunity to provide written submissions for this public hearing. All submissions will be retained by the corporate officer, and copies of the submissions will be available from her on request following the hearing and shall form part of the public record of these proceedings. Ms. Kenney, can you please advise how notification was provided for this public hearing and whether we have received any correspondence?
Yes, Madam Mayor. It was advertised, 2 newspaper advertisements were placed in the March 24th and March 31st editions of the Langley Advance Times. Notices were mailed out to owners within 100 meters of the subject properties. A notice of the public hearing was placed on the city's website and on the posting board on the first floor of City Hall. We've received 4 pieces of correspondence, 3 of which were received after publication of the agenda, and so were circulated to council via email.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, on to bylaw 3205, zoning bylaw amendment number 187 and development permit DP 1421. And I believe Mr. Johansson, you'll speak to this.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. This proposed rezoning and development permit application for a 6-story apartment building on the northwest corner of Bryden Crescent and 55A Avenue is consistent with the official community plan, which permits building heights up to 6 stories in this area. The application was also reviewed by the Advisory Design Panel, or ADP, and the applicant has incorporated, the panel's recommendations into their drawings, including updating the facade and fencing colors, painting and treating the parkade wall, placing additional trees and landscaping on the surface parking deck, specifically at the southeast corner to improve privacy and lessen heat island effects, and adjusting location of underground accessible parking spaces to be closer to the elevator and improving lighting over the parking spaces. The design of the building also maximizes setbacks from the recently completed townhouse developments to the south and the east, involving at least 8 meters and 14 to 16 meters on the south and east side, respectively, which is over and above the standard 6-meter side yard setbacks. This application also proposes a residential parking variance involving the use of a slightly lower studio and 1-bedroom parking rate that is being contemplated for the new zoning bylaw and similar to recent applications in the area. The applicant is also proposing a higher percentage of small car parking spaces, 45%, relative to the current limit of 40%, and also a shorter accessible space length, which are both consistent with the direction being contemplated for our new zoning bylaw and supportable by staff. And I believe the applicant is also in the audience tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I see, Kyle, you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yes, so we do have a presentation that we're going to show to you tonight. I'm here with Steve Bartok, one of the architects at our firm for Keystone, and Tim Croker, the developer on the project, and we'll walk you through our development together. So as Director Johansson mentioned, this is a development, 6-story building, 92 units in the Bryden Crescent 55A Avenue area. We worked together with planning on this with the new OCP and work to work with the new bylaws going forward. The lot coverage is, we're sticking with 37, or proposing a 37% coverage. And as you see towards when we get to the site plan, you'll notice that the building's pushed away from the other adjacent developments to maximize the corner and give as much separation between the other 2 sites. We are doing 92 units with a range of different sizes from studios up to 2-bed and or 2-bed units. And we do have a few variances with regards to length of accessible stalls and the small car percentage. We did have a public information meeting back in 2021 prior to the adoption of the OCP, where we did have a few neighbors come and provide their input on the design, and we've incorporated that into this project here. The site itself is just west of 200th Street and south of 55A. There are a few, this neighborhood is in transition from single-family homes, existing single-family homes, to more higher density of townhouses and 5- and 6-story buildings. So our site is located right at the corner there of 55A and Bryden Crescent. Across the street is the newly completed Wesley 5-story building or apartment building, and the Bryden Living just to the south, which is a 3-story townhouse. And across the street is an existing Bridge Community Church. And then north on 55A is the Encore project here, which is 4-story existing building from, I believe it's the mid 90s, late 90s. So it's the building is set in with the transition of the neighborhood, the design of the neighborhood, and the context of the neighborhood. We have a transit score just showing the locations. We have the Nickel Trail is just south of that location, as well as Bride Lagoon. In 5 minutes walk, there are multiple parks for the residents. Again, just working through the site plan, showing those setbacks that Director Johansson mentioned. East is on the top side of your page, so we have quite a bit of a setback between the single-family homes that are currently along 55A Avenue, and we do have an increased setback to the south where that 3-story building that we touched on earlier. The front access is off of Bryden for the main entrance, which has an accessible ramp up to the main entrance that connects over to the outdoor amenity space at the north corner there. And then we do have visitor parking at grade, which is on the podium that's accessed off of 55A, which gives an access to the east side of the building. There's a resident or visitor access for all the visitor parking that's on the podium, with the accessible stall that's for the visitors right there, right beside the main entrance. And then the park gate access is on the south west corner for the rest of the remainder of the parking. There's some shadow studies for the building. Again, we're showing the March shadows. With the building being at the northwest corner of the block, the shadowing is minimized as we cast across the street and to the north, which is great for the neighboring surrounding buildings. The parking plan has majority of the parking is in the parkade plan or in the parkade. One of the comments that we had from the ADP, as Director Johansson mentioned, was the localizing the accessible stalls to the elevator lobby and providing means of access across, which was great feedback from them, and we were able to incorporate that to increase the functionality and the usability of that parkade. One other item that we want to highlight is that two other items. We have 10 electric vehicle charging stations that will be built into the base building, and the rest of the units or the rest of the stalls will be pre-ducted for EV charging at a future date. The bike storage, we are providing bike storage and standard storage, so separated. We are meeting the bike storage bylaw requirements, and then we are providing a storage locker for the bylaw throughout either in the parkade, the level 1, or throughout the units themselves. Some of the large units have a standalone storage locker located in their units. As I mentioned, the floor plan. So here at the top, you can see the first level. We have some more storage shown at the southeast corner there. We have the indoor amenity that's connected to the outdoor amenity at the northwest corner, and we are providing a gym amenity space that's separate from the communal indoor amenity. And then on second level, we have again some more storage, and then on the third to sixth level, it's units all the way up. And we are providing adaptable units. We're providing 5 adaptable units just to the right of the elevators there. On the streetscape design, so again on the top side of your page, this is on Bryden Crescent looking east. You can see that we have the 3-story townhouse to the south there, again with that large setback. And then on the bottom side of your page, we're looking on 55 south. And you can see that existing single family home. And we do have a large setback where the parking is and the building is set away from there. So we're not towering over top of that single family home. In the exteriors themselves, we're using a cementitious panel with cementitious wood tones for the corner pieces and the front entries, along with a brick base that's hides or covers the parkade that will be fully planted with landscaping. We are accentuating the corners and the front entrances with pop-ups and additional detailing at the underside of the soffit to create interest and break up that large, or the facade of the building. And a little close up there with the front entrance. So just on the right of your screen, you can see that brick base and the ramp entrance up to the main entry of the building. And we do have that brick that continues up to the second floor, and then we have cementitious. And on the right, you can see the front entrance is popped out with different color, different variation from the rest of the building to identify it. We have an aerial rendering of the north and the northwest, basically at 55A and Bryden Crescent, looking back at the building. You can see that the outdoor amenity space on the corner here, the accessible entrance, and again, that brick that really does well to highlight the parquet, or at least address the parquet. And that larger entrance showing how people would access the front entrance there with that accessible ramp. And then our final rendering here of just a wide shot showing the corner pop-ups, that front entrance. That is our presentation. Thank you for considering this.
Great, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Kusack, can you please advise if there's anyone in attendance electronically at this meeting who wishes to speak to bylaw 3205?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have several people in attendance, and Albert Chiu is the first speaker. Mr. Chiu, please start by stating your name and your street number, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councilors, and fellow participants. My name is Albert Chiu. Today, I'm speaking as the owner of 19910 55A Avenue, Langley City. I have owned this property since 2016. My property is located a couple of lots on the right of 19890 55A and 5508 Bryden Crescent, which are 2 of 4 properties listed in this zoning amendment today. I strongly disagree with this zoning bylaw amendment because it essentially orphans my property with my neighbor, address 19900 55A Avenue. On this street, it is not just the development of Bryden Crescent on the left. On my right, there is another developer developing 19920 to 19970 55A Avenue. The zoning amendment for this 6-lot property was approved 3 years ago on April 2019. With these 2 developers on my left and right, I am orphaned with my neighbor. As it happens, my neighbor, 19900, is also a developer. So far, I've worked with Andrea Castro, my realtor who's very reputable in the area, to sell my property for the past 2 years. However, because my property has been orphaned, it has been extremely hard to sell my property at market price because I'm forced to sell to only one buyer, my neighbor. And I've tried really hard to sell my property at market value. Having only one buyer means that I'm not receiving any competitive market rate offers. From my neighbor's perspective, the combined lot of 15,000 square feet has limited development potential. From the city's perspective, mayor and councilors, this is poor city planning with 2 orphan properties, and it has negative economic and aesthetic consequences. Therefore, I strongly disagree with the proposed zoning amendments today. And I feel like I'm being taken advantage of here because the buyer is a developer and is much more experienced in these real estate transactions than myself. I'm just a regular homeowner. This is my first and only house. I feel like this forum is one of the only opportunities for me to voice my concern and express my opinions. I feel as though there are so many deals happening behind the scenes that disadvantage regular homeowners like myself. I pay taxes, and yet I have unequal bargaining power against experienced developers and city planning professionals who have expertise to petition and approve these applications that ended up orphaning my property. Mayors and councilors, my proposed solution is this. It is to combine my property and my neighbor's property with the 4 lots being discussed today. It does not make sense to orphan 2 usable prime location properties when in fact the city has refused to orphan unusable, less desirable location land in Langley City, such as 5213 201A Street. This 5213 201A Street has flooding concerns, as you all are familiar with. It is technically unusable for development, and yet it is not orphaned. So why should my usable prime location property on 19910 55A Avenue, with opportunities as described by developers in this hearing, to be the one forced to orphan? For all these reasons, I strongly disagree. I'm strongly against the zoning amendment. And for the record, Mayor and councilors, if approved, this amendment is not fair and allows these developers who are much more experienced, have expertise, have unequal bargaining power to take advantage of regular homeowners like myself. I thank you for hearing my perspectives today, and I hope that you will be able to step into my shoes as a humble homeowner with towering development around my properties, left, right, and to the south, and reconsider the zoning amendments. I would love to see the zoning amendment to include my property. Thank you so much. I conclude my comments.
Thank you very much for sharing, Mr. Chiu. Ms. Kusack? Next.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The next speaker is Ms. Reid. Please start by stating your name and your street number, please. Ms. Reid, are you there?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It took my computer a minute to unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead and start with your street number, please.
I live at 5485 Bryden, so the Wesley. And I own an apartment building in the Wesley, moved in September of last year. And at the time of purchasing, I noticed that the houses across the street were ready for being demolished. So I did do my due diligence, and I was told that it would be townhouses, which is why I bought this apartment in the first place, because I wouldn't have if I had known all of our sunlight was going to be blocked out by a 6-story building. And I don't begrudge development in the area. I know it's good for the city, but I think it's been poorly planned in this area because, as you know, we've had multiple single-family dwellings knocked down to make way for 5- and 6-story buildings, to the point where this area is almost untenable in terms of transit and parking. Obviously, each building does have its own parking garage. However, as we all know, with the cost of housing in the GVRD in general, most 1-bedroom and studios are lived in by 2 people who each have their own car, and most 1-bed and even 2 beds nowadays only come with 1 parking spot. So that has led to the streets in and around Bryden Crescent, 54th Avenue, and the surrounding streets being completely jammed. 2 cars often can't pass abreast of each other down Bryden at the moment, even in the middle of the day. And then with all of the construction going on in the area, it's meant large dump trucks and other equipment have blocked the road as well. And there have been times when I haven't even been able to pull into our parking garage in this building. And so it will only get worse if multiple unit buildings are allowed to be built in the area until this is sorted out. And moreover, I think the light is a concern, not so much for the other buildings, but in particular the buildings on this side of Bryden Crescent, because we are all shorter than the proposed structure. And so particularly those on the lower levels of this building and our neighbors wouldn't receive sunlight at any point during the day. So that is also a concern that I have. But the parking, I think, already is at an unsafe level, and this won't help it. It will make it far worse. Thank you. That was all my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Reid. Ms. Kusack, next speaker, please.
All right, next speaker is Connie Rodrigues. Please start by stating your name and your street number, please.
I'm gonna say you're on mute, Miss Rodrigues.
Oh, hello, can you hear me?
Can now, thank you.
Oh, sorry, okay.
No, that's okay.
It's actually Barb Stoll. Connie and I are kind of sharing the computer right now rather than using two. Anyways, I live at 19830 56th Avenue. So our alley entrance goes out to the street. Just a couple of points. How many actually outdoor parking spots are there going to be? What the woman said previous to this about parking on Bryden and 55A Avenue, she's right. I mean, when we pull out of our building, we can't see the traffic coming because cars are pulled up right to the corner, and there's going to be horrendous accidents if any more parking is done on the streets. Secondly, during the building phase, where is their building office going to be? Like a lot of them put them either on the sidewalks or on the roads, and like building's been going on for 3 years there already. Mostly one of the sidewalks is unwalkable. And she's right, the roads, you're lucky to get one car through, let alone walk on the other side because there's building material everywhere. Another question is, will the garbage bins be in the underground parking? One of the condos at the corner, their garbage bins are on the street. And I didn't think that was allowed. Maybe it is, bylaws change, I get that. But the only thing is when people throw their garbage in the bins, they miss, there's litter everywhere. And will you be monitoring the trucks going through? Like a lot of them don't have flaggers. They back up down the street. I know I got hit with one, I got T-boned, and sometimes they're moving the equipment like late at night without flaggers. Are you going to be monitoring this? And those are my comments. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I believe the developer can answer some of those questions for you.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Mayor. Just to those questions there, one of the items that we would like to mention is that we will be off. It is the developer's intention to get all trades vehicles into the parkade as quickly as possible so they're not on the street. One of the other things that this development allows for is that we do have quite a bit of a boulevard along Bryden Crescent where trucks can get off of the street and into that space. That is something that is brought up quite consistently where residents of neighborhoods are concerned about parking, and that's definitely an item that RKDI or the developer and ourselves are very concerned about and do have means to address that so that we don't impact the neighborhood more than we are already. The second question about the garbage and recycling, that will be located in the parkade just off of the ramp. One of the items that obviously we don't want those on the street and creating a visual distraction either. So yes, there will be parking, trades parking will be located off the street as much as possible. Oh, and the last item there, obviously the flagger item, it is a bylaw requirement for all trucks to have flaggers. So that will be something that obviously is closely monitored by the developer.
It is a bylaw, but they don't follow it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Ms. Kusack, speaker, please.
Thank you. The next speaker is Emily Girgulis. I'll start by stating your name and your street number, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my name is Emily. Street number is 5476 Bryden Crescent, Unit 23.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, our biggest concerns with this development so far would obviously be, the parking with everybody else. Parking is already a huge issue for us. We moved in April, May of last year, and we were only phase 1, and then they were expanding to phase 2. With phase 1, I think we were only allotted 5 guest parking spots at our house, in which now people are, for the whole complex, for phase 1 and phase 2. Which now people from the street and people from our own residents are, double parking in those, blocking the fire lanes, causing us to not even be able to pull into our house without almost T-boning somebody when coming out of our own house. So parking is not only an issue on the streets, but it's an issue in the complex because of people fighting for spots on the streets. As well, I've actually almost been hit twice where the church is on the corner when crossing, into the alleyway of the other street, because cars are parked basically right to the corner. So you can't see anything. And a lot of the time there's big U-Hauls, big trucks. So this development is going to cause a lot of issues with parking. And right now, the way it is with the amount of units that are being proposed, it's very difficult for everybody that lives here. And then my other concern would be right now there's 4-story townhouses here, and I believe a 5-story condo on the other side of the street. Proposing a 6-story is not only going to block a lot of our views because it doesn't match anything on our street, but it's also going to cause privacy issues for us, for the ones that bought into these rooftop townhouses, because my house is right next to this new development, which is right next to all of our rooftop patios. It's going to tower 2 over. So, some people aren't going to get the sunlight. Some people aren't going to get privacy at all. So if it is continuing to go through this development, I think it should be a maximum of 4 stories and not 6. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next speaker is Ms. Vedaniva. Please start by stating your name and your street number, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Anastasia Vedaniva, and I'm the resident of the 5485 Brighton Crescent, Langley. I also would like to express my concerns and voice my notes against the 6-story building and development. I do agree with the above said about the sunlight, that we're going to be deprived of that, as well as the 6-story development is not going to be leveled or in level with the rest of the constructions on the street. Especially speaking, when we purchased in this building, we were promised that the tallest buildings in front of us are going to be townhouses, which are like 4-story. Then obviously the parking situation, and the main question to the developer is how long the construction period will be, because during that time we're obviously all going to be struggling with parking the vehicles, 1, 2, pulling out from our parkades. It's already, as mentioned before, creates lots of incident-like situations because cars are parked up until like the entry to the parkade ramps. Basically, yes, that would be it.
Thank you for voicing your concerns. Do we have any new speakers, Ms. Kusack?
Yes, we have another speaker. Vladislav, forgive me, Bahania. You're up next. Please start by stating your name and your street number, please.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, honorable people. My name is Vladislav Sokolov. I live in 5476 Brighton Crescent, Unit 18. I have the same concerns like my neighbors have. The parking right now is a big issue. Every night it's a hassle to park on the streets, and moreover, it's so much construction going on right now. We have to park 3 streets further away also when we purchased this townhome, we were told it will be a 4-story building, and now if it was told that it's going to be a 6-story, then it will take away our privacies because of having the rooftop patios, and moreover, it will be too crowded. It's already crowded with the 4 5-story buildings around Brighton Crescent, and now you're adding a 6th one, and I totally oppose the rezoning, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much for your comments. Ms. Kusack, do we have any more first-time speakers on the list?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the moment, it does not appear so.
Okay, well, thank you to everyone that did come forward to voice their concerns. I'll call for a second time for speakers on bylaw 3205 on any new information that hasn't already been stated.
Mr. Chiu, did you want to speak again? You had indicated earlier.
Hi, this is Albert Chiu again. Thank you, Mayor and councilors. I believe my realtor, Andrea Castro, is also on the line. If so, I yield the floor to her.
I don't see anyone on the speakers list by that name, Madam Mayor.
No, neither do I.
In this case, I yield the floor. I conclude my comment from the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chiu. Okay, so I'll call for a second time for speakers on bylaw 3205.
Ms. Rodrigues, you're up next. Please go ahead. Ms. Rodrigues, did you want to speak a second time?
Okay. Hello?
There you go. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I too have concerns about the parking because I also leave home quite early in the morning, and coming out of my garage, going onto the street around the corner, there's cars parked there. It's bad enough the parking the way it is right now, let alone with a 6-story. Where is these people going to park their cars? There's no parking on the streets. And I can't even begin to imagine people who have kids have to park 3 and 4 blocks away to get into their own homes. Like, it's fine for these developers to come in and put this pretty building up, but they don't live in the neighborhood. My neighborhood is not what it used to be 5 years ago when I moved in here. I go for walks. They don't have bins for dog poop. People don't pick up after the dogs. There's dog poop bags everywhere. Like, it looks like Poop City. It doesn't even look like Langley anymore. So I'm asking, what is these? It's fine for these contractors to make the big bucks, but what about the owners that come in here? And we don't have much of a say because we can all be here voicing our voice. Is this going to go through? Why 6 floors? Why not 4? I agree with all my neighbors. It's horrible to live here with the parking. Near accidents. I drive down the alley. There's a car pulling in. There's no mirrors on the walls. Like, what's it going to take for something else to take place, to make changes? Is it going to take someone to get seriously injured in a car accident? Like, I don't have the answers, but I'm not thrilled with what's going on in the neighborhood at all. It's all about the dollars and not about the people and the families. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kusack, next caller, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I believe we have Ms. Castro in the call now. She's dialing in. Go ahead, Ms. Castro. You're speaking on behalf of Mr. Chiu. Ms. Castro, are you there? Perhaps we'll move on to the next speaker, Madam Mayor. Ms. Reid, you can go ahead and speak for a second time.
Hello. I don't wish to be redundant, but I do just want to stress, as my neighbors have said, I realize that the developer has said they have parking, but I would imagine the developers of all of our buildings said that they have parking, and clearly there's a disconnect because the state of our street would suggest it hasn't been enough parking in the building. So unless the developer is willing to actually provide 2 parking spots for most of their 90 some odd units, which I don't think is reasonable, possible, I suppose, I just don't see how this neighborhood is going to remain safe. And I think that there will be severe safety issues. So I do want to stress that even if the developer says, oh, it's okay, we have parking, I think we can see if we look outside that has not really panned out the way that they've said it had. So I did want to add that and stress that piece, but I am done now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reid.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if it's okay, we'll go on to Ms. Castro. Is that you?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're speaking on behalf of Mr. Chiu.
I am. So as I was saying, I'm a licensed real estate agent with Remax City Realty, and in this area, I know the area quite well. I've been assembling some of the properties, and what I was talking to my clients about was that we have his property listed for some time, and we've worked in good faith with the neighbors, and even with these 4 homes that we're discussing tonight. I've contacted them to try to have it included with the assembly. And so as a representation with my client, it doesn't make sense to leave these 2 properties together. I know that under the OCP, it shows that it's a minimum requirement, but I don't know, we worked very long for over 2.5 years with all of the developers that have purchased most of the properties next to my client 1991055A, as well as the clients that we're talking about, the developer tonight, and nobody's made any offers for my client's property. And I presented it numerous times, and he feels quite stuck. And so I did speak with many times with the department, planning department, letting them know what was going on. And that's what I just wanted to say, is just that we've worked in good faith for over 2.5 years to have these parcels included, or my client's property included with the development, with no offers being presented in 2.5 years. So aesthetically, if you drive by, you're going to see all those homes are cleared, as well as the properties from 200 leading up to my client's property. Then there's just 2 houses together. And I just wanted to say that I think that his properties should be included in one of these developments. We shouldn't just grandfather or leave these 2 isolated properties together, essentially marrying each other, because they can't do anything. What if one client doesn't want to sell, or the other one? So that's our standpoint, because my client's now stuck in a position where he can't do anything. He can't basically sell his property.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Yes, thank you for bringing those concerns forward. Next speaker, Ms. Kusack.
Madam Mayor, we have Emily Girgulis.
Oh, there we go. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good. I also forgot to mention a couple of points that I wanted to get across. Just a reminder as well, the units right next to us that are being built are condos, and there's 77 units that haven't even had anybody move in yet. So keep that in mind as well. There's also developments on this street already that haven't even had their residents move in yet. So there's already going to be even more parking issues because, people have more than one car, people have guests. The parking is going to be a very big issue. Somewhat unrelated, I guess, but I do echo the dog poo comment. I'm surprised the city hasn't tried to support us a little bit and provide us proper waste bins and proper garbage cans in this area. There's not a garbage can you can even find, even relatively close in this area. So people just leave their dog poo everywhere. I do want to say that we have tried during the time of our development. We have had lots of issues with our builders in particular, where they have promised, parking and other things and views and everything, just like developers do. Promises always fall short. And our townhouses were built very poorly. We've had a lot of issues here. We've had a lot of things that have been against BC Building Code. I'm the president of our strata. I've personally called the city to report a lot of the issues, like not having peepholes, as well as several other building code violations, and the city hasn't really provided any assistance or response. We've gotten an email response and then it falls on deaf ears. I want to know what the city is going to do to keep us residents here safe. A lot of us have children riding bikes around, elderly walking around the neighborhood, people just walking their dogs around the neighborhood. In our development, it was very common that the developers would throw debris from the rooftop into a bin instead of using a proper tube or a pipe to contain that debris. If they miss the bin and somebody walks by, all that debris could fall on a person walking down the street, on the sidewalk. And I was told by the city, oh yeah, that's pretty unsafe, we'll follow up with it, and nothing ever happened. So having another development go up, our places were built in 4.5 to 6 months, which is extremely quickly. I don't know how long these developments are going to take. It's tough to trust in the developers and the builders that are coming into our neighborhoods nowadays, where we're trying to build families, we're trying to build a community, and it's constantly being torn down to add more revenue, more people, add more buildings and quickly build them and put our residents at risk. So, my biggest concern is also safety. What is the city going to do to make sure that this developer, this builder is going to keep the residents in this neighborhood safe? And that's it for me.
Well, thank you very much for that and voicing your concerns. If things are going on and we don't know about it and it's not reported, I just want to say that I'm sorry to hear that. So
I appreciate that, but yeah, I've sent a lot of emails and had a lot of phone calls with the city, and there's been a lot of things that haven't been actioned. So it's pretty disappointing, and it makes me nervous to have another development come in here. And the way people build things nowadays, very quick. They just throw them up, everything goes in really quickly, and poor jobs happen, right? And people can get hurt.
Well, and this is the good thing about having public hearings and hearing what's going on in the neighborhoods. So thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, anybody on the second round? I don't see anybody else. So I'm going to call for a third and final time for speakers on bylaw 3205.
Madam Mayor, we have a speaker, Vladislav Sokolov. Go ahead and start by stating your name and your street number, please.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, awesome. Yeah, my name is Vladislav Sokolov. So I live in 5476 Brighton Crescent, Unit 12. So I'm a neighbor of Emily, and I'm sharing all the thoughts actually exactly the same way with her. I'm experiencing exactly the same things that when I'm walking to work, I can see dog poop everywhere, which is really concerning. Another thing about parking, there is no way to park for my guests already third week they're coming to visit us, and there was no parking around. So they park closer to church, which is a distance to walk, right? So I'm sure once that building will be built, there will be like crazy amount of cars parked outside, and we'll have no parking around. So I'm against 6-story building, and I want to vote against that.
Okay, thank you. So third and final time, any speakers for the third and final time on bylaw 3205? Okay, see no speakers. Do any members of council have any questions regarding bylaw 3205? Councillor Pahal, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through the mayor to, I guess, the proponent. Do you have an agreement with the church for parking trades vehicles? I know that is a concern in that neighborhood. I run through that neighborhood every single morning because I live in this neighborhood. So I've reported trades vehicles to the city myself just as a resident. So I'm wondering if you've considered that, because I know it does create for real tight situations there.
I think, Tim, do you have an opportunity? Would you like to field that one?
Yeah, hi, Tim Croker here for the developer. We have not approached the church at this point. We can and will do that. It's just in regards to construction and when we would start. And based that we're still in the planning stages with the city, we have not to this point.
Yeah, I think just as as a best practice with some of these projects, I just highly encourage offsite parking, especially when we have residents living there. It just makes all the difference between a project where everything is smooth and one where it can create challenges for residents that exist. So thanks for considering that, and I encourage you to do that. Just as a kind of FYI, I think the place with the bins is the Audley building, or AUDLEY. That's the ones with the bins on the street a lot in the morning. I noticed that, just as an FYI. And just as a final comment for the poop and stuff that you may see around, I see garbage and stuff around myself. I actually did a request for service this morning. There was lots of junk in, I know this isn't the public hearing part, but there was a lot of junk in the Bryden Creek. So I did that. And so it's just request for service, Langley City, and staff are really quick at usually cleaning that stuff up. And I certainly hear about the garbage cans. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Albrecht, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly, you've heard a developer and applicant, you've heard the residents, so I know you'll develop a plan to address those as it moves forward through the council process. A question I have is, will you be trying to use local goods and services during the construction phase of the project in order to support local business and industry? And then I had a question for staff about possibly breaking out a section of the report to council about the environment or sustainability features for these developments as they move forward, so that it's easier for us to have a look at what kind of benefits other than housing that they're going to bring to our local community. So thank you for those.
Yeah, Tim Croker here again for the developer. As far as local goods, we do have some trades that are from the local area, possibly Langley, or where it changes to Surrey, there's kind of some industrial areas there, but not specifically only that area.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're supporting local as much as we can. So thank you for that.
Mr. Johansson, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the mayor to Councillor Albrecht, yes, that is something that we can do with future reports coming forward. And if I may, I just wanted to comment about the concerns about BC Building Code and work site safety. Builders need to follow the BC Building Code. We go through an inspection process, a multi-level inspection process as buildings are constructed, and the expectation is that the developers would follow that. I'll look into complaints that have been made to the city on that. It's unfortunate to hear that. And tonight was the first time I heard about these complaints and the breadth of them. Unsafe work practices are totally unacceptable, and something that we have WorkSafe BC in place to deal with those. And if we become aware of that, we'll report it. And I also encourage residents to report that as well, because that sort of thing is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johansson. Councillor Sturtevant, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, let me begin by thanking everyone for their input. I really appreciate the fact that you've attended because you're concerned for your community, your property, your family. And I believe that council has heard what you have to say. And the city can be assured is doing its best to try to accommodate you as residents. I might suggest that we do a parking review of the street parking if available, and maybe introduce some traffic bulges to try to discourage people from parking too close to access points that might be unsafe for people exiting and entering their condominium properties. There, after all, public safety is our top concern, to be sure. With regard to the poop, I might suggest that the stratas consider contracting out someone and maybe installing receptacle of some sort, because it's disgusting to think that people are leaving poop out on the sidewalk where, you know, children can step in it, and it's just unacceptable. I can't help but think that it might be available to resolve something, because there are private contractors who can help with that sort of thing. And I appreciate the concerns around construction parking. I want to believe that the developer of this site is going to do a responsible job. We do have a provision that requires them to have flaggers and to have their construction people park off site. So my only other remaining concern is with Mr. Chiu, and yeah, it's a challenge to be sure. I can't help but wonder, you know, if when you bought the property, you bought it for investment purposes. I don't know. Maybe I'm going beyond the scope of the public hearing, but maybe we can talk again, Mr. Chiu. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Johansson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a brief comment about the trades parking. That would be something that we'll be expecting the developer to come up with a plan in order to ensure that the trades are off the street, and we have construction management plans that are put in place with flaggers and that sort of thing to ensure even traffic flow, safe traffic flow, and also to ensure that the streets aren't being clogged up with trades vehicles. The other item, just to be responding to the comments earlier in the public hearing and putting it on the record, when staff take a look at different permutations for property assembly, we look at a number of scenarios, and in the corner here, there's probably 2-3 scenarios where you could assemble the properties and come up with viable redevelopment. The properties to the west, the 2 of those, we took a very close look at those before we assented to bringing this application forward. The site area and the east-west and the north-south dimension are large enough for either an apartment building or a townhouse complex, assuming that those 2 properties would be assembled together, and that's what we would require for a development coming forward. A typical underground parking garage layout is about, and an elevator core is anywhere from 34 to 36 meters wide, and both the east-west and the north-south dimension on that property would allow for that. So that's a key premise. And we also, in early days, did see some architectural concepts for those 2 properties. So we're reasonably confident that that development or that property could go on its own. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions for council regarding bylaw 3205? Okay, so I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and voicing your concerns, and staff will look into some of those concerns, as will the developer. So can I have a mover and a seconder to close the public hearing, please? Councillor Bahal, Councillor James, all those in favor, any opposed? Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. The bylaw will come forward for consideration of a 3rd reading at a future council meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.